They laughed when I walked into the chamber. Not the polite, hidden sort of laughter, but the full-bodied, wheezing kind that echoed off the curved steel walls like mockery made solid. Alien throats rumbled, mandibles clicked, and even the supposedly dignified highborn with their flowing robes tried, and failed, to cover the smirks that crept across their faces. Because I was human. And in their eyes, that meant I was weak, soft, and, most of all, incapable of handling her. I'll admit, she was intimidating. Tall, statuesque, scaled in a shimmer of violet that caught the chamber lights and scattered them like gemstones. Her eyes glowed faintly gold, slit-pupilled and sharp, like she was measuring the worth of everything in the room and finding most of it inadequate. A dozen alien suitors had already tried, and a dozen had been cast aside. Yet here she stood, arms folded, tail twitching in bored menace, as though daring the universe to present her with someone who could actually keep up. And here I was, 5'11" from Earth, with nothing but stubbornness and a knack for surviving situations that should have killed me. "Is this a joke?" one of the highborn sneered, his crest feathers bristling. "You bring a Terran male before Lady Zyra as if he could possibly satisfy her demands?" A chorus of chittering laughter followed. I wanted to turn and walk out. I wanted to tell them all to shove their prejudices somewhere uncomfortable. But then my eyes met hers, Lady Zyra's, and something in the way she tilted her head, just slightly, kept me rooted. She wasn't laughing. She was watching, measuring, testing. And that was when I decided, screw the galaxy, screw their assumptions. I wasn't here to be a punchline. The first time I heard her name, I was nursing a drink in a run-down station cantina on the edge of Delta Serpentis trade routes. Zyra. The kind of name that carried whispers. She was the daughter of some warrior matriarch, an heir to a throne no one wanted to contest, and, if the stories were true, someone with standards so impossible that entire species had embarrassed themselves trying to win her approval. She broke a Krogorian in half with her thighs, the bartender had said, dead serious. And not in the fun way. I should have taken that as a warning. Instead, I laughed. And then, drunk on bad whiskey and worse decisions, I made the boast that would change everything. "I bet she hasn't tried a human yet." The table went quiet. Someone choked on their drink. And within hours, that stupid, offhand remark had spread like plasma fire through the station's rumor network. By morning, I was the human who claimed he could tame Zyra. By noon, I had a very polite but extremely armed escort telling me I'd been invited to present myself before her clan. And now here I was, standing in a chamber the size of a starship hangar, with 100 alien eyes on me, waiting for me to fail. Zyra's voice cut through the noise. Smooth, low, with a faint rasp that made the back of my neck tingle. "Approach." I did. My boots echoed against the polished obsidian floor, each step too loud, too human, too fragile. When I stopped in front of her, she looked me up and down, not even trying to hide her skepticism. "So this is what they bring me now," she said, her golden eyes narrowing. "A Terran. Soft-boned. Fragile-skinned. Barely evolved beyond his own dirt." I smiled despite myself. "We've got our charms." A ripple of laughter moved through the watching crowd, but this time it wasn't entirely mocking. Some of them sounded curious. Her tail lashed once. "They said a human male couldn't satisfy me. That you lack the endurance, the strength, the ferocity." She leaned closer, her breath warm against my face, carrying a hint of ozone and something sharper. "Tell me, little Terran, what makes you think you're different?" My heart pounded. Every instinct screamed at me to back down, to admit the mistake and get out alive. But that same reckless streak that had carried me across battlefields and bar fights kept my mouth moving. "Because we're human," I said. "We don't quit. We don't break. And when someone tells us we can't, that's when we prove them wrong." The chamber went silent. For a heartbeat, I thought I'd overplayed it. Then Zyra's lips curved into something dangerous, half smile, half challenge. "We shall see." They didn't waste time. The trial began almost immediately, though calling it a trial barely scratched the surface. It was an ordeal, designed less to test compatibility and more to humiliate, exhaust, and break. The first test was endurance. A sparring match in a gravity chamber cranked up to twice Earth standard. My muscles screamed within seconds, every breath felt like dragging molten lead into my lungs, and across from me stood Zyra, calm, predatory, barely breaking a sweat. She lunged. I dodged. Barely. My ribs took a glancing hit that left me gasping, but I stayed upright. Pathetic, someone in the gallery muttered. Zyra didn't stop. She came at me again and again, each strike harder, faster, forcing me to adapt or collapse. And somewhere in that blur of motion and pain, I realized something. She wasn't trying to kill me. She was testing me, seeing if I'd quit. So I didn't. I kept getting up. Again and again, bruised and battered, until finally she caught me with a sweep that sent me sprawling across the floor. The room roared with laughter. But when I forced myself up, shaking, bleeding from my lip, but still grinning, Zyra's golden eyes widened just a fraction. And I knew I'd scored my first victory. The second trial was mental. They called it the Labyrinth of Clarity, which sounded like something out of a bad sci-fi novel, but turned out to be a maze filled with illusions, psychic projections, and voices whispering doubts into your skull. Most challengers, I was told, gave up within minutes. I lasted hours. Not because I was stronger or smarter, but because humans have a gift most aliens underestimate. We're stubborn as hell. Every illusion tried to break me, visions of failure, of home, of shame, but I pushed forward, step after step, because I'd be damned if I let a haunted funhouse decide my fate. When I stumbled out at the far end, dehydrated and half-delirious, the gallery was silent again. No laughter this time. Just 100 pairs of eyes watching as I collapsed to my knees, muttering, "Still not quitting." And there, at the edge of the chamber, Zyra watched me with something new in her expression. Not amusement. Not scorn. Something closer to respect. By the third trial, word had spread beyond the chamber. Aliens from other clans arrived to watch. The Terran fool, who wouldn't give up, had become a spectacle. This one was different, a test of compatibility. Not physical strength, not mental resilience, but the raw chemistry between us. The gallery leaned forward, hungry for the punchline. Zyra stood before me, her violet scales catching the light like liquid fire, her tail curling in a lazy arc behind her. "This is where they always fail," she murmured, so only I could hear. "They can fight. They can endure. But they cannot reach me." I swallowed hard. Maybe they've been trying too hard. Her eyes narrowed. "Explain." I stepped closer, slow enough that she could stop me if she wanted. "They see you as a conquest. A prize. Something to win. But that's not what you want, is it?" For the first time, her composure cracked. A flicker of surprise, quickly hidden. I smiled faintly. "What you want is someone who doesn't just survive the trials. Someone who actually sees you." The silence in the chamber was deafening. And for the briefest moment, I thought I saw it, the faintest spark in her golden eyes. Not victory. Not dominance. But curiosity. That was when the Highborn interrupted. "Enough!" the feathered alien snarled, his voice dripping contempt. "This farce has gone on too long. He is human. He will fail. End this charade before he embarrasses us all further." The crowd murmured in agreement. Zyra's gaze lingered on me for a long, dangerous second. Then she turned, her voice sharp as a blade. "No." The chamber fell silent. "This human continues." And just like that, the challenge that was supposed to humiliate me became something else entirely. A battle not just for pride, but for possibility. Because now it wasn't just about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. The chamber doors sealed behind me with a boom that reverberated in my chest. The sound alone would have made most men falter, but I'd already survived 2 trials. My legs were trembling, sure, my lungs burned from the gravity chamber, and my mind still echoed with whispers from the labyrinth, but I was still on my feet. Still here. Which, apparently, unsettled the hell out of everyone. The gallery had doubled in size since I'd walked in earlier. Word travels fast when an underdog refuses to die. Now nobles from 3 clans, mercenaries with scarred hides, and even a few off-world merchants leaned forward on the balconies, eager to watch the human crash and burn. "They prolong this humiliation," hissed the feather-crested noble who had mocked me earlier. "He cannot possibly succeed in the next trial." I glanced up at him and grinned, blood still drying at the corner of my lip. Careful. I've got a reputation for ruining expectations. The laughter this time wasn't all hostile. A ripple of chuckles broke from the lower ranks. I caught one alien merchant elbowing another, muttering something that made them both laugh harder. The tide of mockery was shifting, ever so slightly. And Zaira noticed. Her golden eyes tracked the crowd, her expression unreadable, but I could sense the tension in her tail and shoulders. She wasn't just testing me anymore. This was about her as well. If I failed, she'd proven nothing by entertaining me. If I endured, well, then she'd taken a risk that might change the way the galaxy saw her clan. No pressure. The third trial began without fanfare. A platform rose from the chamber floor, circular and lined with faintly glowing runes. Zaira stepped onto it, her scales catching the light in a way that made the entire gallery hush. Then she beckoned me forward. "This," she said, "is the trial of resonance." I blinked. That doesn't sound like a punching contest. A ripple of amusement went through the crowd. Zaira didn't smile. "No. This is where spirit is tested against spirit. Where two beings align, or fail to. It is a joining of essence." I raised a brow. "You mean, like a psychic handshake?" Her lips curved faintly. "Call it what you will, Terran. But no one has yet endured mine." I stepped onto the platform, my boots crunching against ancient stone. Immediately, I felt a hum underfoot, like the deck plates of a starship warming to life. The runes glowed brighter. Zaira extended her hand. Not claws, not fists. An open palm, deceptively gentle. "Touch," she said. My throat went dry. The gallery leaned forward in unison. I reached out and pressed my hand to hers. The world exploded. It wasn't pain. Not exactly. More like every nerve in my body had suddenly been set to maximum sensitivity. Heat, cold, light, sound, everything slammed into me at once. My knees buckled, and I nearly collapsed, but Zaira's grip on my hand tightened like steel. "Do not falter," her voice whispered, not aloud, but directly inside my skull. "I'll try not to," I thought back, unsure if she could hear. "Oh, I hear everything." Her mental voice carried that same low rasp as her real one, but magnified 1,000-fold. "Your fear, your exhaustion, your doubt, and my stubbornness." I shot back, through gritted teeth. Her golden eyes glowed brighter. "That too." Images surged through me. Memories not my own, vast battlefields under alien suns, duels fought on cliff edges where lightning storms raged, moments of triumph and despair, and always her, unyielding, unbroken. She was letting me see her life, her victories, her loneliness. In return, the bond yanked my memories out like pages from a book. Earth. Blue skies. The smell of wet grass after rain. Childhood fights in schoolyards. My first kiss behind a broken vending machine. Training exercises where I'd failed and failed again until failure became fuel. She saw it all. I should have felt exposed, humiliated even, but instead I laughed, a raw, exhausted laugh that startled even me. "You find this amusing?" she asked, incredulous. "Yeah," I gasped, forcing the thought through the psychic link. "Because for the first time today, I think you actually see me." Her claws twitched against my hand. And then the bond deepened. The pain changed into something else. Intensity, connection, fire. I felt her strength coursing through me, and I realized she felt mine, too. Not the brute force of muscle, but the jagged resilience of a human who refuses to quit. For a moment, just a moment, our breaths synchronized. The world blurred into nothing but her golden gaze and the heat between us. Then, abruptly, she let go. The connection snapped, and I stumbled backward, nearly falling off the platform. My chest heaved, sweat dripping down my forehead. The gallery erupted in noise. Gasps, shouts, disbelief. Because I was still standing. No one else had. Zaira's gaze lingered on me, unreadable. Then she turned to the highborn. "He endures." The noble's crest feathers quivered with outrage. "Impossible!" The resonance should have shattered his mind. "Perhaps Terran minds are more stubborn," Zaira said softly. The laughter this time was real. A few of the lower-born aliens even clapped. The tide was shifting faster now, and I knew it wasn't just my trial anymore, it was hers. But of course, they weren't going to let me walk away unchallenged. The Highborn spread his arms. If this human thinks himself worthy, let him face a true test. Not games of spirit or endurance. Let him face the beast of the pits. A murmur swept through the gallery. Even Zyra's eyes narrowed. "You would unleash that abomination here?" she asked. "Unless you fear for your human." His tone dripped venom. My heart sank. I'm guessing the beast of the pits isn't a cuddly puppy. The laughter that followed was almost sympathetic. Moments later, the chamber floor shifted, plates grinding open to reveal a dark pit below. Chains rattled. A growl, deep, guttural, inhuman, rolled upward like thunder. And then it emerged. The beast was 3 times my height, a mass of muscle, fur, and armored hide. 6 eyes glowed red across its skull, and twin tusks jutted from a maw that could have swallowed me whole. Chains clinked as it dragged itself forward, each step shaking the ground. "Terrific," I muttered. "Space rhino from hell." The crowd roared with anticipation. They weren't laughing anymore. They were hungry. Zyra stepped closer to the edge of the platform, her tail lashing. This was not the trial. The Highborn sneered. "It is now." My stomach twisted. Every instinct told me to run, but there was nowhere to go. If I backed down, everything I'd fought for ended here. If I fought, well, odds were I'd be Space Rhino Chow. Zyra's gaze snapped to mine, sharp and unyielding. "Do not die, Terran." "Not planning on it," I shot back, rolling my shoulders, though my knees were jelly. "But if I do, tell them it took a damn monster to stop me." The beast charged. The world narrowed to the pounding of its feet and the hot gust of its breath. I dove aside at the last second, rolling across the stone as tusks slammed into the platform, cracking it. Shards flew like shrapnel. The crowd roared. I scrambled up, adrenaline drowning out the pain. No weapons. No armor. Just me. Against something that made Earth's grizzlies look like house cats. It lunged again. I dodged, barely, the tusk scraping my arm and leaving a shallow gash. My blood spattered across the floor, steaming where it hit the glowing runes. Think. I couldn't overpower it. I couldn't outrun it. But maybe, just maybe, I could outsmart it. Humans might not be the strongest species in the galaxy, but we're clever bastards. The beast bellowed and swung its massive head. I darted toward the cracked section of platform where its tusks had struck earlier. As it charged again, I waited until the last possible second, then leapt aside. The monster's tusks rammed into the same spot, widening the crack. "Come on, big guy," I muttered. "One more should do it." The crowd shouted, some in excitement, others in disbelief. Zyra's golden eyes blazed as she followed my movements. Again the beast charged. Again I dodged, drawing it into the weakened stone. With a deafening crack, the platform gave way beneath its weight. The monster roared as it plummeted back into the pit, chains rattling, claws scraping. A final echoing crash, then silence. The gallery erupted in chaos. Some screamed outrage, others cheered wildly. And me. I collapsed onto my back, laughing breathlessly. Still not quitting. When the noise died down, all eyes turned to Zyra. She stepped forward, her voice carrying above the din. "He has faced the beast. He has endured resonance. He has survived every trial placed before him. Tell me now, do you still believe a human male cannot satisfy?" Her words silenced even the most hostile nobles. And in that silence, I realized something terrifying and exhilarating all at once. The hardest part was still to come. Because proving myself wasn't just about surviving trials anymore. It was about what came next, between me and her. The crowd wasn't laughing anymore. Not at me, not at humans, not even at the absurdity of a Terran male making it this far. The gallery, packed shoulder to shoulder with nobles, merchants, mercenaries, and opportunists, had fallen into a feverish hush. I could feel their eyes burning into my back, their voices caught between disbelief and awe. It should have felt like victory. Instead, all I felt was the tension in the air, the storm before lightning, the pause before a gunfight. Because if I'd learned anything in life, it was this: when you humiliate the powerful, they don't just let it go. They double down. And sure enough, the feather-crested noble, the one who jeered the loudest from the start, finally broke the silence. "This is intolerable." His voice cracked like a whip, feathers flaring. A Terran peasant paraded as if he were worthy? He has shamed us all by surviving where greater bloodlines have fallen. The chamber echoed with murmurs. Some agreed, some didn't. But he wasn't done. Such mockery cannot stand. If Lady Zyra wishes to prove her worth, then let her champion face me, here and now. By blood and by fire. The gallery gasped. The declaration wasn't entertainment anymore. It was a formal duel. Ancient law. Binding. And somehow, I was the damn champion. I laughed, short, bitter, a bark that carried farther than I'd intended. "Of course," I muttered. "Can't just let me enjoy not being dead for 5 minutes." Zyra's eyes locked on mine, golden fire burning with something unreadable. Concern. Rage. Maybe both. "You are not bound to accept," she said softly, "for me alone. They set this to destroy you. The duel is to the death." I wiped blood from my lip with the back of my hand. "Yeah, I figured." Her tail lashed, scales glinting under the chamber lights. "You have proven enough. Refuse, and I will." I cut her off. "No. If I back down now, everything I've done, everything I've survived, it means nothing. They'll say humans endure, but only until it matters. And I can't let that be the story." For a long, dangerous second, she just stared. Then her lips curved, not in mockery this time, but something sharper. Fierce. Almost proud. "Very well," she said. "Then stand, Terran. Stand and prove them wrong." The duel was arranged quickly. The platform where I'd tricked the beast was cleared, scorched runes still glowing faintly from where its tusks had cracked the stone. My opponent shed his ceremonial robe, revealing a body built like coiled steel, every muscle honed by years of warrior training. He carried a blade, long, curved, glowing faintly with energy that hummed through the air. Not just metal. Something worse. I had, well, fists. And stubbornness. Fantastic. The highborn sneered, pointing the blade at me. "When I am done, little Terran, they will scatter your bones among the stars as a warning." I grinned, though my stomach felt like lead. "You talk too much. On Earth, we call that compensating." The gallery roared, some with laughter, others with outrage. And then the duel began. The first strike came fast, faster than I'd expected. A blur of steel and light, cutting the air where my head had been a heartbeat earlier. I dropped, rolled, and came up with my heart slamming in my chest. This wasn't a trial. It wasn't a test. This was murder, sanctioned by law. He swung again, a vicious arc meant to cleave me in half. I dodged, barely, the edge searing across my shirt, leaving the fabric smoldering. The smell of burnt cloth and skin filled my nose. Pain flared, sharp and immediate. And I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because if I didn't laugh, I'd break. "You're fast," I gasped, circling, fists raised. "But you fight like everyone's too scared to hit you back." His eyes narrowed. "You think your words will save you?" "No," I shot back. "But maybe they'll piss you off enough to make you sloppy." The next strike was angrier, less precise. I ducked under it and lunged, slamming my shoulder into his chest. The impact barely staggered him, but it was enough to prove I wasn't just running. He snarled and backhanded me across the face. The world spun. Stars burst behind my eyes. I hit the stone hard enough to rattle my teeth. "Stay down, Terran," he hissed. I spat blood, grinned through it, and pushed myself upright. Not my style. The crowd erupted again, half booing, half cheering. I couldn't tell if they wanted me dead or victorious anymore. Maybe both. The duel became a blur of survival. His blade flashed, and I dodged. Sometimes too slow, cuts opened along my arms, my ribs, my thigh. Each wound burned, but each one reminded me I was still alive. And every time I got back up, something changed in the gallery. A shift, subtle but undeniable. The laughter was gone. The jeers were quieter. Now they were watching, waiting, holding their breath. Because the Terran wasn't quitting. And Zyra, gods, Zyra's eyes never left me. Fierce, burning, almost hungry. Not for my death, for proof. At last, the chance came. He swung in a wide arc, overconfident, expecting me to dive away again. Instead, I stepped in. Pain screamed as the blade nicked my shoulder, but my fist connected with his jaw, human bone meeting alien cartilage with a crack that echoed. He staggered. For the first time, his composure broke. And I pressed the attack. Punches, kicks, elbows, sloppy, desperate, but relentless. He tried to bring the blade up, but I grabbed his wrist, clung to it like a drowning man, and slammed my forehead into his face. Blood sprayed. His grip faltered. The blade clattered to the ground. The gallery erupted in shock. I didn't hesitate. I kicked the weapon away, then drove him back with everything I had left, every ounce of stubborn, furious, human resilience. Until at last, he crashed to the floor, unconscious, beaten not by strength or steel but by sheer refusal to give in. Silence. Then, cheering. Real cheering. The gallery thundered with it, echoes bouncing off the chamber walls. Nobles scowled, but even they couldn't hide the truth. I'd won. I stood there, swaying, bloodied and broken but alive. I raised a fist, grinning through split lips. Still not quitting, I croaked. The noise grew louder. And then, over it all, Zyra's voice cut clear. Enough. The crowd hushed instantly. She stepped forward, golden eyes blazing, her tail lashing with restrained power. This human, she declared, her voice carrying like thunder, has faced every trial. He has endured every challenge. He has bested even those who sought to cheat him. Her gaze swept the nobles, daring them to object. Tell me now, before all who witness, who among you dares claim he is not worthy? No one answered. Not one. For the first time, I realized I wasn't just proving myself anymore. I was proving her right, for choosing to let me stand, for letting me fight. And that scared me more than anything. Because the hardest battle wasn't against monsters or nobles. It was what came next, between me and Zyra. The duel was over, but the chamber still thrummed with its echoes. The crowd hadn't dispersed. They leaned over railings, craned necks, some still whispering in disbelief, others shouting my name. Not mockery this time, recognition. I stood there, bruised, bloodied, every nerve screaming, but taller than I'd ever felt in my life. Because no matter what came next, I'd done it. I'd endured. I'd proven them wrong. And then I looked at Zyra. Golden eyes locked on me, fierce and unreadable. Not the scorn of before, not even the measured curiosity she'd shown during the resonance trial. Something else. Something that made my pulse quicken despite the blood loss. Because for the first time since I'd stepped into that chamber, I realized this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about her. The nobles tried, of course. They weren't going to let me walk out unchallenged, not after I'd humiliated one of their own. This is outrageous, one hissed, crest feathers quivering. A Terran cannot stand equal among us. This spectacle is a disgrace. But their words fell flat. The crowd had turned. Merchants cheered. Soldiers stamped their feet. Even rival clans exchanged wary glances, calculating what it meant if a human could endure what their own champions had not. And then Zyra silenced them all. Enough. Her voice rang like steel across the chamber. He has endured the trials. He has defeated your champion. He has done what none before him could. By the laws of our people, by the witness of all present, his worth is proven. The nobles fumed, powerless. The crowd roared. And me? I just stood there, swaying on my feet, muttering under my breath, still not quitting. Afterward, they gave me quarters in the clan's citadel. Luxurious by human standards, stone walls carved with flowing runes, silken drapes that smelled faintly of ozone, a bed large enough to land a shuttle on. Servants offered food and medical care, though I waved most of it off. I'd spent too long patching myself up with duct tape and liquor to trust alien remedies. But exhaustion hit hard. I collapsed onto that absurdly oversized bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head. The gravity chamber. The labyrinth. The resonance. The beast. The duel. And her. Always her. I didn't remember falling asleep. I woke to silence. Not the sterile hum of ship engines, not the raucous din of a station cantina. Just silence. And her. Zaira stood at the foot of the bed, arms folded, golden eyes watching me with that same unnerving intensity. I sat up slowly, wincing at the ache in my ribs. Ever heard of knocking? Her head tilted. This is my citadel. Fair point. She stepped closer, the soft scrape of her claws against stone making my pulse jump. Do you understand what you have done, Terran? Nearly got killed half a dozen times in front of a very judgmental audience? I tried to grin, though it probably came out more like a grimace. Her lips curved faintly. You have altered the course of my clan's future. That sobered me. Because I survived. Because you changed the story, she said. They said a human male could not endure me. That none could satisfy my trials. Yet here you stand. I swallowed. Barely. Yet still standing, she countered. Silence stretched between us. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, her scales shimmering with every slow breath. I should have been terrified. I should have remembered that this was the warrior who'd broken stronger men in half. But instead, all I could think was, she's not laughing anymore. You knew, I said quietly. Back in the resonance trial. You knew I wasn't like the others. Her gaze softened, just slightly. I suspected. You see what others do not. You endure what others will not. That is unusual. Valuable. I raised a brow. Is that your way of saying you're impressed? She leaned closer, the faintest smile tugging her lips. It is my way of saying you are dangerous. I laughed, despite the ache in my chest. Dangerous? Me? I've been winging it since the second I walked into that chamber. Perhaps, she said, golden eyes burning into mine. But sometimes improvisation is the sharpest blade. The days that followed were strange. I expected rejection, exile, maybe even an accidental duel to finish the job. Instead, the clan watched me with a mix of wariness and respect. Some sneered, sure, but most kept their distance. The story of the Terran who wouldn't quit spread faster than fire in oxygen. And Zaira. Zaira kept testing me. Not with formal trials, but in smaller ways. A question designed to trip me. A sparring match in the training halls where she pushed me to collapse. A silence that dared me to break it. Each time, I refused to give in. Each time, she seemed a little less guarded. And one evening, after another bruising spar that left me gasping on the training floor, she offered me a hand up instead of a strike down. You are not what I expected, she murmured. Story of my life, I wheezed, taking her hand. But it wasn't all victory. The nobles weren't done with me. Whispers followed me through the citadel. Accidents nearly happened. Poisoned wine, sabotaged quarters, a blade left just a little too conveniently within reach of a nervous servant. They wanted me gone. And honestly, part of me wanted the same. I wasn't built for politics. I was a drifter, a survivor. Not some hero in an alien court. But every time I thought about leaving, I remembered her eyes in the chamber. The way she'd looked at me when I refused to quit. The way she'd defended me when the crowd wanted me dead. And I realized leaving wasn't an option. Not anymore. The final confrontation came sooner than I expected. Another noble, bolder than the rest, cornered me in the citadel's courtyard with half a dozen armed guards. No trials this time. No laws. Just cold intent. You've shamed us long enough, Terran, he hissed, drawing a blade. Your story ends tonight. I raised my fists, weary but ready. Guess you haven't been paying attention. My story doesn't end that easy. Before the fight could begin, a shadow fell across the courtyard. Zaira. Her tail lashed once, claws glinting in the torchlight. Enough. The guards hesitated. The noble sneered. He is nothing. A freak accident, nothing more. Zaira's golden eyes burned. He is mine. The courtyard fell silent. The noble paled. The guards backed away. And me. My heart nearly stopped. Because in that moment, it wasn't just about proving myself anymore. It was about belonging. Afterward, when the courtyard had emptied, I stood there with her, breathless and shaken. "You didn't have to do that," I said. "Yes," she said simply. "I did." I met her eyes, golden fire against human blue, and realized something I should have known from the start. It was never just about satisfying her. It was about standing beside her. The next gathering in the chamber was different. No jeers. No mockery. Only silence as Zaira stood tall, her tail curled, her gaze sweeping the crowd. "This human," she said, voice clear as a blade, "has proven what you all denied. That strength is not in bloodline, but in will. That resilience can matter more than tradition. That even the smallest flame can burn brighter than the stars." Her gaze shifted to me. "And he has proven it beside me." The crowd bowed their heads. Even the nobles couldn't argue. "And me?" I just grinned through split lips and muttered, "Still not quitting." The chamber thundered with laughter and applause. Later, when it was just us, she asked quietly, "Do you regret it?" I shook my head. "Not for a second." She studied me for a long time, then smiled, truly smiled, for the first time since I'd met her. "Then perhaps," she said softly, "they were right about one thing." I raised a brow. "Yeah. What's that?" Her golden eyes gleamed. "That no human male could satisfy me. Because you are not just human. You are you. And that is enough." For once, I didn't have a comeback. Just a smile. Because maybe, just maybe, I'd proven them all wrong. And that's how the story ends. Not with conquest, not with surrender, but with something simpler, fiercer, and far more human. Endurance.